Major support for these broadcasts is provided by the CUNY TV Foundation, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Geneva Burns, Gian Tomasi and Webster, M&T Bank, the Wyckoff Group, Chelsea Lighting, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional support is provided by Ackman Ziff Real Estate, AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi, USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Colliers International, NYC, Cushman & Wakefield, DDG, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Eastern Union Funding, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Herrick Feinstein LLP, Hersha Hospitality Trust, Investors Bank, New Banks, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, John Katsimatidis, Red Apple Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans, Madison Realty Capital, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Popular Community Bank, SJP Properties, Sterling & Sterling, Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, and these friends.
Jamaica. An individual comes over, maybe he wants to be a tour director. He comes over, he's 21 years of age, lives in the Bronx, works for the police department, does accounting, then one day decides to be in the bun business, making buns. Then he's going to make, a Golden Crust Caribbean bakery. This man today operates 120 restaurants, a bakery, a full facility. I'm really fortunate to have Lowell Hawthorne, the CEO of Golden Crust Caribbean Bakery. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Also, the author of The Baker's Son, My Life in Business. It's nice to have, especially when you're on the City University of New York's network, a graduate. But we got to talk about the family and a little bit about you. So tell me, when you and I got together, you told me that you remember your grandpa. Your granddad had a lot of influence on you. Tell me about Grandpa. He was a tailor and a baker.
Yeah, I was blessed to have had wonderful parents and a wonderful grandfather. One of my mentors, a man who was a pastor, a bishop, a overseer, and also a tailor. And his last profession that he took on was also a baker.
Now, how do you become a baker? This is when you and I got together, I don't understand. I can understand the tailor, but the baker, there's a different talent to be a baker.
I am still puzzled why my dad and my grandfather end up getting into the bakery business, especially being in Jamaica at that time. I don't know who they were patterning at the time, or they were bakery, because certainly there weren't any bakeries in my community.
You told me Grandpa baked really for the Easter holiday. That was the real time that you would bake.
Yes.
Okay, you would make these special buns, which you make today. You still make in your factory up in the Bronx today. So these were buns that he would make only like once a year?
Yeah, my grandfather would bake these buns once a year. And then that's how my father got into the business. But my father expanded it. He did more than the buns. He did the hard dough bread and the bullock cakes and other small pastries.
But he was also a tailor.
But he was also a tailor, like father and like son.
Right. Now, so tell me how your mother and your father met.
My mother was just a wonderful young lady, a missionary in the church in Jamaica at the time, a young lady that loved the Lord. So she has always been going to this wonderful church in a small town called Highgate. And my dad, being a minister himself would visit that community, and one day
He met this
he met
attractive
this
woman by the name of
attractive woman
Mavis,
by
right?
the name of Mavis,
Mavis.
and the rest is history.
So now, you know, this was a small little family. You're the number 6 of 11, I believe?
That is correct, yes.
So you were number 6 of 11. And growing up, you know, reading and talking to you, you were raising pigs and what other things, you know, right?
I'm so blessed to have had fathers that's really encouraged me when I was growing up. I was a farmer, raising pigs and chicken. As a matter of fact, I remember slaughtering those animals to use the proceed to acquire my first minibus. Not only was I a minibus operator, I also operated a sound set system in Jamaica.
We would call that a disc jockey, right?
A DJ, a disc jockey.
But when you were, you know, you told me you were playing, you know, cricket and you were playing paddle tennis and other things growing up in Jamaica, and your aspirations, you know, at that time was maybe to bake the bake, you know, work with your dad during the Easter holiday, and also to, you know, your true aspiration was to be running a minibus, you know, taking kids to college, picking up tourists at the airport, right? That was...
Yeah, I've done that, and I remember I was 16, 17 when I was transporting passengers from my community to Kingston. Once I arrived in Kingston, I would take these passengers to the 2 universities in Jamaica, which of course was University of the West Indies and UTEC. And my aspiration and goal then was to be the president of the Minibus Association and enjoy taking my passengers back and forth. That's all I wanted in life.
Now, you told me that your sister came over in 1969. And what she did over the years was bring your brothers and other sisters over here. So when it was 1981 that you come over here, you were 21 at this time, right?
Yes.
And you remember going to the airport. I think you came into Idlewild Airport, right?
Kennedy Airport.
Kennedy, I'm not sure. Yeah, it was Kennedy.
Kennedy Airport,
It wasn't called Idlewild anymore.
Yeah.
You come into Kennedy Airport, and your sister's living up in the Bronx, right?
Yes.
Where in the Bronx?
It was in the Bronx, and 2811 Morris Avenue. It's a part of the immigrant experience. You know, everyone in Jamaica it's one dream to come to the United States. And so my sister came, ended up working as a nurse's aide, and then began to petition for all of us who were in Jamaica, and I was blessed. I was one of them.
Right, but you came over, your sister lived in the house.
Yes.
There were like 3 bedrooms, you told me?
My sister lived in the house, 3 bedrooms, with her 4 children, and my sister and 2 of my other brothers.
Right, your brother, one who was going to LIU at that time.
Yes, he was going.
And the other one who worked for Ford Motor.
For Ford Motor, and of course my brother who would work for the university. So I came up, landed at the airport. What a beautiful sight that was, coming from 30,000 feet, landing and seeing this wonderful hallway that certainly welcomes immigrant. I said to myself, boy, this is a place that really welcomes immigrant into this great country.
But that was the first day. The next day, you woke up and said, I got to do something. The family left. Your sister went to work.
Yeah.
Your brothers went to school. They went to work.
Yeah, even prior to that, having arrived at the airport, having left the airport and traveling to the Bronx, arriving at the Whitestone Bridge, we stopped there, and I began to wonder, why am I stopping on the bridge? Why are you paying a toll? Why are we paying tolls? Why are we paying to cross the bridge? And from there, you know, having experienced that, I arrived home and realizing, you know what, this is not Jamaica. The next morning, my sisters, their family, everyone left. Now I'm a loner, being home, wake up to a new community, language, of course, different, culture different, different food, and it was an experience.
And then and then you thought it would be easy for you to get a job, but it took you 3 months, right?
3 months.
3 months. You looked around, and then you end up at Abraham and Strauss in Brooklyn at A&S.
Spent about 6 weeks there.
5 or 6 weeks there. And what were you? You were a folder, you told me.
Yeah, folding shirts and hand buttoning and rebuttoning, and it was a very frustrating job. As a matter of fact, I wasn't good at at that job.
It wasn't your true aspiration.
No.
So how did you get the job at the police department?
One of the things that was happening at NYPD was it was being evolved, meaning there was some transition going on in which cops were going on the street and they were employing a lot of civilians to replace them. And I was lucky, I was among that group, and I got employed with NYPD August 17, 1981, and it has been my only job, and I stayed here until I decided to start my company.
So you're at NYPD, you're living with your sister, right? And this is 81, and during that period of time, when did you start becoming a little more entrepreneurial interesting? Because when did you and your friends create a tax business, an income tax business?
I had worked for NYPD for the first 3 years, and by 1983...
Were you at Bronx Community?
Yeah, I was at Bronx Community College at that time. I started doing taxes.
You were working for H&R Block?
I learned the business at H&R Block. I found out that they were having a course there, so I went there and got certified in tax preparation and started doing taxes for the cops.
You were the man over there. So you were taking the business from basically you had a base of business because you had all the police over there.
Yes, I had all the rookies, all the cops.
You had all the cops over there, and then you created a little business by you had a partner, right? Didn't you?
Yes, I had a partner. Never forget him, Herman DaCosta.
Right, and that was why the entity was called L&H, right?
L&H was basically Lowell Hawthorne.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Herman. Maybe you gave it to him. No, yeah, okay.
Lowell Hawthorne was the
So this was your tax business, and you're at this time you're also going to Bronx Community College.
That is correct.
And then at this time you also decide that you and your brother and sister should move out of your sister's house. You get an apartment in the projects. Tell me about the New York City housing projects.
It's not easy. Just imagine living on Boston Road, and in 1983, the early 80s, there was a lot of drugs in that community.
They called the Bronx was burning at that time.
Yeah, it was pretty tough, and it was some experience. We spent quite a bit of time there, living in the project, but it was a part of my...
So who was in the apartment? Your brother and sister?
Of course, my brother, my sisters, and then my wife.
Which will tell me how you met her at a what was it, a nightclub or something? You told me you saw this beautiful woman one day.
Yeah, I went dancing at a club in the Bronx. Yeah. Being 21, what do you do on a Friday night at 22? I wanted to go party. So I ended up meeting this beautiful lady at a wonderful club in the Bronx, who happened to turn out to be my wife, and the only woman I've had and married, and the mother of my children.
So, right now, you're in the apartment in the project. Your future wife moves into the apartment later on, and part of the American dream that we were talking about was to buy your own home. You wanted to buy your own home. When did that happen?
That happened in 1985. As a matter of fact, around that time, interest rate was about 17%. And I remember I was qualified for a Sonny Mae mortgage at the time, which was about 10% interest rate, and we acquired our first home for $94,000.
Now, who was living in the house?
And my wife and I, we moved out, and then we moved to our home, and then we left my brother and my sister
in the project.
It was a single family.
Which you made it two-family.
But I made it into a two-family.
So it's 1985. You're in the house, you're 24 years of age, which is a great thing. You wanted the American dream of owning your own home. You're running L&H Tax Services. You're also running, you're at the police department. And you're going home once in a while to help your dad, who's still baking buns in Jamaica, right?
That is correct, yes. I've been, and still is, always a busy person.
So how do you decide to bake buns in America?
My dad was a migrant from America, and he would come here once a year for a couple of months, and then once the family moved here, my dad would come around this time, Easter time, and would bake buns in my sister's basement, and then we would take it to our friends and sell it. And I think that's how the whole Golden Crust idea started coming around.
So, I mean, what, you sold it out of the police van, or, you know, I'm not sure with you. Could have been buns with tax returns and everything else. You know, if you did my taxes in April, you got a big bun.
We would sell it to our friends. My sisters would take it to our nursing homes. My brother would take it to school. And that's the way.
But these were the buns. These were the baked buns, right?
Yes,
Special Easter buns, the buns that you would put the cheddar cheese in, you know, the Jamaican cheese and everything else. It's 1989, and you decide that you want to really expand. What happens? Tell me about that.
What I did, I was with NYPD for over some 9 years, and once the time came for us to make the decision to go into business, I took a very unusual leave of absence, which is called...
Tell me about the leave of absence.
Military and extended leave of absence, child care leave of absence without pay. My supervisor, Inspector Bowden at the time, approved it, and...
Yes, I remember reading in the book, he was a little surprised. He
Yes.
thought, he said, what are you doing? Come on, this is not real. You're taking the child care leave?
But I'm so glad. It's a great country where, you know, whether you're male or female, you have the right to a
So
child
at
care
least
leave
you
of
had the
absence.
opportunity to go back to the job in case there was a problem.
If the business
If
did not
did
work,
prevail.
so it was
So
important.
how'd you find this location on Gun Hill Road?
As a matter of fact, it's a very heavy Caribbean community, and I was actually living maybe about 5-6 blocks away. So I knew the area quite well and the neighborhood quite well.
Now, we were talking about this later on. Your wife even got a job at the police department.
That is correct, yes.
So you had both members of the family working at the police
NYPD.
department, at the NYPD. By this time in '89, you had 2 children. Tell me the story of how Golden Crust was created by the real estate broker, right?
Yes, because the name Golden Crust actually came from my real estate broker, a young man by the name of Godfrey Wallace, the one who assisted us in finding the first location in Gun Hill Road. So while we sat down and discussing this bakery concept, we did not have a name. And we were trying out different names, and then Godfrey said, what about something golden? And crust, a golden crust. And right away we said, boy, that could be the name. And we came together and we said, you know what, we're going to go with that.
But-
Golden Crust.
But let's talk about the $107,000 that you raised to open up the bakery. How'd you do that?
The $107,000, as you know, is a family business. Brothers, sisters, and their spouses, we all got together, and each person contributed what they had. And we, for me personally, I mortgaged my home. My sister mortgaged her home. My other brothers and sisters, we have something in the Caribbean that we call susu and partner, in which you join a group of friends and you put money.
It's like a credit union.
Like a credit union.
It is. Right?
It is. And then each person would get the first draw, and then from that, we use it to contribute to the pot.
What are the first products that you sell on Gun Hill Road in this bakery? Is it only the baked goods, or
Only the baked goods, bread, buns, and cake, we were actually producing.
right?
The patties
the
we were buying.
Okay, so let's talk about the patties, because when we get to 1993, it's a very interesting thing what happens in '93. You were buying Jamaican patties, which were manufactured by someone else.
Yes.
The patties, were they had to be just baked when they got to the bakery? Or
Yes. One of the things, my dad never taught us how to make patties, so we did not know how to make Jamaican patties when we started the business.
Right, but you knew how to bake cake, but
Or
you didn't.
cakes, bread, and buns. So we were buying the patties from one of my competitor. We did that for about 3 years.
Right, and during that period of time, the entrepreneurial here, my friend Mr. Lowell, decided to open up 7 locations, right?
That is correct.
Now, the first location, the first, not franchise, because later on is the franchise, was Brooklyn, right?
Yes. Again, not a strong Jamaican community.
Right, and you also said to me, besides the fact that the Jamaican, you even opened up a lot of these locations near hospitals because of the fact that a lot of the Jamaicans worked in the healthcare institutions as nurses, aides, and so on, correct?
Yeah, that was a part of the company's strategy. And it works because Jamaicans, women particular, a lot of them are nurses or in the medical fields or nurses' aides, whatever the different occupations are in the hospital, that's what they do. So it's quite fitting.
So let's
the
talk about it.
GK
It's
decided.
1993. 1993, you're on vacation with the family in Jamaica, and you get this phone call. Tell me about the phone call.
I think that's one of the biggest crises that I've had in the business, and that was in 1993 when we were vacationing in Negril, and there was about 7 of us there, enjoying it, doing extremely well. 7 stores, revenue coming in, we're doing well. My wife quit her job, my family members no longer working, and I got this phone call, and the person on the line shouted, "Lowell, you do not believe what has just happened." I said, "What?" "Your competitor has cut your patty supply off." Can you imagine? We're dependent on Jamaican patties. This is the #1 staple, the #1 item in the store. And to have learned that we have no more patties. But who do I turn to?
You turned to your dad, and what did he say?
I turned to my father, man of faith and wisdom. And Dad said, "Son, don't rush back to the United States. Don't worry. All things work together for good to them that love the Lord." Never forget that. I said, "Pops, what are you talking about? I have no patties." And Pops said, "Listen, all things work together for good to them that love the Lord."
So you come back a couple of days later, and then you have to learn how to make patties.
Yes.
So how do you find Mel, the famous Mel?
I had to learn how to make the crust. I had to learn how to make the meat, and I had to understand the technology. So the first place I went was England, London. London is known for kidney pies. So I went there, made my inquiry, learned of some wonderful company in the UK making kidney pies, and I brought one of the experts with me to the United States. Then I went to Chicago to get the local patty machine, and then I learned of this great gentleman in Jamaica by the name of Mel, who cooks well and make a good patty. So I end up traveling to Jamaica, to the country, looking for this gentleman by the name of Mel, going to the community, asking every person who I came across, "Do you know Mel?" Some would give me a brief description of this great Mel. But it took me a while, having asked quite a bit of folks within the community, to eventually run into this great Mel.
So then you bring Mel back here, but now you have another problem. Now, before you were in Gun Hill Road, taking care of the business. Now you have to open up a factory, and you have to deal with FDA and other requirements. So how do you get up to Bathgate Industrial Park?
Once Mel began cooking for us, the business took right off. Sales increased tremendously. The patty was good, and we had just completed a small factory. And in 6 weeks, we outgrew that facility, and I began to inquire where I could find a better place and a larger facility. And a real estate broker led me to the Bathgate Industrial Complex. We got there, we bought our first building, and then we're still there today with over 7, 8 buildings there today.
And how many patties you make a day now?
Today we're doing 400 patties a minute, and our shift starts at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we end about 11 p.m. at night.
So how do you decide to go into the franchise business?
We got in the franchise business by default. Having owned 30 stores, people were calling and knocking on my door from all over the place that they want to be a part of this concept. They want to be a part of something exciting. So I began to inquire how to establish a franchise business.
And you told me you got franchise books. You looked at the McDonald's books, the Burger King.
Yes.
So you learned a little business. And then in order to save some money, which was wise, you found an attorney who is now your corporate counsel from upstate, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we didn't understand the business. I learned, applied to McDonald's for franchise, bought a lot of books and did a lot of studies. There was not much on the internet at the time, so you have to go to libraries to find information. Came to the city. Attorneys were charging here some $500 an hour.
And you found the man for $140 an hour.
$140 in Dutchess County,
Right.
in Poughkeepsie.
Right.
And
So-
today he's my one of my board members on corporate counsel.
So now we have 120 stores in 9 states. How do you decide to write the book?
I've decided to write the book because of my journey. So many twists and turns. I wanted young people to learn and know that they too can achieve the American dream. And also written the book because I wanted to a source where I could raise funds to donate to scholarships and to help young people.
In memory of your parents.
In memory of my parents,
Right.
Mavis and Ephraim.
Now, another thing happens later on in life. Things are great, and one day you get an aneurysm in 2009. You wake up, right?
Yeah, that was a wake-up call for me. You're happy you're doing everything, and one day I was in church on a Sunday morning praising the Lord and singing Amazing Grace. And all of a sudden came down with this terrible headache. And the next thing I realized, I ended up at Westchester Medical Center with a brain hemorrhage at age 48 and bound at a home for some 3 months. But through it all, God has been so good. It causes you to change your priority. Make Christ first and then family.
Let's talk about family, because the family is in the business.
Yes.
So tell me who's in the business. You have 4?
It's a Golden Crust family business. Of course, my brothers, my sisters, my children.
Let's talk about your children and your wife.
My wife, who serves as the director of human resource.
Your wife's name is?
Lorna.
Right.
Wonderful lady. My eldest son is vice president for manufacturing.
His name?
Haywood. My daughter Monique is the director for the foundation. My son Homar is the director of franchise development and community affairs. And my youngest son, who will join us as a corporate counsel when he gets out of law school next month. So it's a family affair.
It's a family affair.
Yes.
And you know what? You've given back, and you even a couple years ago, you got an honorary doctorate of humane letters from Medgar Evers College, right?
Yes, it's a part of my philosophy that one should give back at all times, and you must put your social conscience on
Now,
display.
you said to me there were 4 Ds. What was the 4 Ds?
The 4 Ds for success: the drive, the discipline, determination, and the desire.
So I would say that you've had the 4 Ds. You've had the drive, the discipline, and the desire. And as you said to me, you want this product to be a mainstream product. Besides having the 120 locations, you're in Costco, you're in Publix, you're in ShopRite, you're in supermarkets.
Right. All the Dollar Tree stores across the
all
country.
the Dollar Tree stores, and you've truly built a wonderful business. So the kid who thought he'd be, the tour guide, the Association of Tour Guides, is building a bigger empire.
Yeah, at the end of it, I want Jamaican patties to be mainstream by 2020, and we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that Jamaican patties on everybody's table by 2020.
And thanks for being here
Thank
today.
you very much. This was wonderful.